Okay, good morning everybody, and thank you for joining our webinar this morning addressing supporting your sort of move to data center with Microsoft Azure. Today we've got a number of representatives from Microsoft Refresh IT and Bytes. So my name is Chris Hibbert, I'm our Enterprise Solutions Director, so I'll be hosting today's webinar. We've also got Nir from Microsoft, who will be talking through Microsoft Azure and the journey to the cloud. And we've also got Gillian and Nicholas from Refresh IT, who will be talking specifically about their technology to support the assessment and migration to Microsoft Azure. So just for those of you who may not be Bytes customers, and we've got a various set of people on the webinar today. So we are one of Microsoft's premier licensing and SAM and training partners. Specifically on today's subject in the cloud space, we are Microsoft's #1 partner in the UK. As hopefully you can see from these stats presented today, we represent and influence 40% of their Azure sales in the UK and 20% of Office 365. I mean, our focus as a business is software licensing, and a significant part of that for us and for many of our customers is Microsoft technology and Microsoft software. So we're proud to be a #1 partner in particularly the Azure space. We do offer a number of other services that I've mentioned, particularly in the asset management and supporting customers understand their software and licensing position, and equally supporting any resolutions to that. And importantly, where our customers do buy software is helping them for our training team actually utilize that technology as well. If I can just hand over now to our Microsoft colleague Nir, who will talk through the Microsoft Cloud journey.
Thanks, Chris. Hi, everyone. My name is Nir Evron, and I'm a data platform specialist at Microsoft. And I just wanted to kind of run through what we see at Microsoft as the big trends as far as cloud technologies go. And when you look at the trends with cloud technology, we can maybe sort them out in 4 major areas. So the first one, where we see people considering or using cloud technologies is where things and devices are concerned. If you look at the thing and device market and you collate the numbers, there's more than 75 billion devices, which is mobile devices and sensors connected to the internet. That requires a massive amount of compute, a massive amount of storage, and cloud technology is a big portion of it. Applications, again, if I can at least speak about the conversations that I'm personally having with my customers, a lot of them, when they look at core business applications, will look at the cloud as a candidate for that. A lot of them are even looking at cloud-born applications, software as a service, and today a lot of core applications can be software as a service, such as Dynamics Online, ERP Online, Salesforce, and so on. But even if they decide to go with on-premise applications, a lot of them will look at the cloud as a hosting platform for the application when they're modernizing their core systems. And if you take all the data that these generations and devices generate, this data is essential for business to operate and make decisions. Plus, there's a lot of external data to the organization that is very useful. And today, a lot of organizations are in a position where they have some of the applications on the cloud, some of the application on premise, which creates complex challenges on, how do I bring all this data together to one place? How do I do analysis on it? How do I enrich it with external data? And the cloud, a lot of the answers to these questions are in cloud technologies and services. But the interesting thing about infrastructure is that when you look at the reasoning for why organizations move to infrastructure on the cloud, only 14% of what causes organizations to move to the cloud is actually cost-related. The rest of it, or at least more than 50% of it, has to do with agility. So IT organizations, a lot of the customers that I speak to openly say, do you know what, our core business is not IT, our core business is engineering, rail operation, retail, recruiting, whatever it is, but it's not IT. And we do believe that companies with vast experience in cloud, such as Microsoft, can actually do it better than us. And we want to know, we want to understand what are the risks, what does it mean for us to actually move the infrastructure to the cloud. We want to be able to provide our internal customers with more agility, so we want to be able to spin up infrastructure when we request it to do so by the business. We want to do it quickly. We want to give better SLA to the business, and actually the cloud does give a lot of answers to these challenges. Can we move to the next slide, please? Now, when you start thinking about your cloud strategy and you want to choose a platform, Microsoft is a platform that has a lot of investment behind it. So the obvious portion of the investment is in infrastructure. We have over 1 million servers in our data centers worldwide. We are opening data centers constantly. There is a data center that is going to be launched in UK at the end of this calendaric year. But beside the obvious investment in infrastructure and networking, Microsoft is also investing in a lot of other areas that are very important to our customers. And again, these topics come in every conversation that we have with our customers. One of the biggest ones is security. We know what happened to companies such as TalkTalk, and we hear about security breaches on a daily basis. Our customers want to make sure that when they give the control of their infrastructure and data to us, they want to make sure that that data is secure. So we spend a huge amount of time and money in making sure that our infrastructure is secure, and there's a lot of technologies and hardware that we put in place in order to make sure that that happens. The other area which is also important to our customers is compliance. Some of it is data residency, some of it is just being compliant to whatever regulations they're required to be compliant to. We have vast teams in Microsoft that work with governments, institutes, in order to make sure that our cloud platform complies to regulations in various countries where our customers operate. And we also have, besides those teams that work externally to Microsoft, we have internal teams that can supply that information. So when you have questions about where is your data going to reside, am I compliant to this or that regulation that I'm required to be compliant to, we have legal teams that can actually run you through all the compliancy structure for Azure for the different services that you're required to deploy on Azure. So, with all that, the interesting thing is to understand, how do I think about these things? How do I start design the strategy of moving to the cloud? How much of my infrastructure can I move to the cloud? What is safe to move to the cloud? What are the risks behind it? And I think that this is a lot about of what we are going to speak about today with Bytes and Refresh IT. And with that, I'll pass on to Chris.
Thank you, Nir, for that introduction and the history, and we can understand the significant investment that Microsoft have made in the cloud and the progress, I think, that lots of organizations, and the advantage, I think, that lots of organizations have taken already from Microsoft, and particularly the Azure space. So today, what we're going to talk about is, well, how can Bytes and Refresh IT, with Microsoft support, help organizations? We're using the terminology modernize their estate, and with particular focus on the cloud. Now, before we talk through the methodology, in terms of the context that we approach this in, yes, a lot of our customers, it's greenfield and it's looking at the cloud for new technology, new services, and that's great. But many of our organisations, and probably all of you on the call today, have significant investments already in your current data centres and current infrastructure. And how can we look at that with the view of potentially moving some or all of it into the cloud? So when we look at our customers and talk to them about, well, where are you today, we need to understand what application and sort of client-server infrastructure do you have currently, and what sort of applications are you running on your Windows, Unix, Linux estate. Equally, so I think my presentation is just paused. 1 second. Equally, behind that, there'll be some database platforms, and equally, potentially, some web, intranet, extranet, and internet platforms that you would service as applications on as well, or to provide access to that data or applications as well. Behind all of that, there'll be some storage infrastructure, and this is the whole context that we need to understand before we start looking at what could and how much of it could potentially move to the cloud. Additionally, it's how do your customers and internal users access those platforms and applications. It could be internally only through the corporate network. It could equally be over the internet itself, either via VPN or direct web access. For many organizations, they've already experienced and are actually experimenting with or delivering services through the cloud, and that could be from a sort of software level, so software as a service, it could be purely infrastructure, or indeed platforms such as SQL Azure. Whatever the current context is, we'll take all of that into the round and then try and understand what current versions, what current consumption and compute power is currently being used, and what could this look like on the Azure platform. The other part of the equation that we need to understand is the security context as mentioned, and equally how your end users, from what access routes, from what platforms, what end user devices are they currently consuming or looking to consume your corporate services and corporate applications and corporate data. Once we can understand the starting point, we can then map out that journey. And part of this is now what we're going to talk about in terms of our methodology. In terms of some of the drivers that businesses and customers have, what we've seen, and our journey, particularly in terms of this methodology, started was really focused and crystallized with Windows 2003. Many of you out there had a significant estate on Windows 2003 platform, and we had to look at what do we need to do. Do we just purely upgrade current physical virtual infrastructure, or do we take the opportunity, now that we've got some legacy hardware and sort of OS within the estate, to move that out to the cloud? So that stimulated a lot of activity over the last sort of 12, 18 months. Interestingly, there are still some organizations that have 2003 out there, and we're assisting those on that journey. And in terms of end of life and end of life drivers, that's a continuing thing. Now this year, looking at SQL 2005, particularly Microsoft going end of life, but then many other vendor technologies and other Microsoft technologies, which will equally stimulate the consideration of this is going end of life. Where do I go next? What do I upgrade to? What platform do I upgrade to? Do I do it on premise? Do I do it in the cloud? Or is there a mixture? Equally, particularly when we talk about the data center, there may be some capacity constraints. It may be that the hardware you have in your data center is going end of life in terms of warranty and support periods, maintenance periods, and therefore then, do you then use those as a question to say, do I replace it with more hardware? Do I move it to the cloud? Do I have physical capacity in my data center to expand and deliver those new services that the business is crying out for? Or do I again look at the cloud? So we're going to try and understand all of those motivations and drivers to help you put together the business case and the journey to hopefully move to a modernized estate, which will give you those things that a lot of the business are crying out for, particularly, as mentioned by Neil earlier, agility. So sometimes it may not be about cost reduction. It may be about improving the speed of response of the business to deliver new services to end customers and to the business. So our methodology incorporates a 5-step process. The first part, and the most important part really, is to understand today what is out there, so that discovery activity. There are tools that we use, as well as consulting expertise, to understand your business drivers, business processes, business practices, and what are you trying to achieve in terms of those key outcomes. Additionally then, it's not just about the hardware and compute and applications. We also need to understand your current business assets, and in our world, particularly the software licenses and agreements that you have, and how could they support that journey and ability, if you like, to the cloud in the Azure platform in terms of today's conversation. Equally, how does it support you in terms of business case around the support agreements or external service agreements you may have with current outsourcers or hardware providers. So all of that is put into the mix. We assess the current estate to look at the opportunities or gaps or risks or constraints that you may have. It could be end of life, it could be capacity compute constraints. It could be looking at things like how do you deliver DR and backup today, and is that the opportunity or motivation to potentially look at cloud options. We'll then work with you and our partners to then envision what that future architecture could look like, taking into account Azure as well as on-premise, and then a program of work or continuous program of work or projects may then emerge out of that envisioning exercise, and that's where the modernisation actually takes place. So we'll then do those and undertake those projects with you or support you on that journey, or indeed give you the roadmap and the business case where you can actually undertake the activities yourself. Now, a lot of customers are equally taking advantage of the fifth element, and that is the managed, and that's really an ongoing and continuous support that we can provide. So that could be coming in and doing periodic reviews, and if you like, a health check on your Azure estate and the way that the business is currently consuming Azure compute, and ensuring that as business processes, and particularly find in the development teams how they're actually spinning up and consuming and utilising Azure and Azure platforms, and ensuring that's done to best effect. Or it could be helping and assisting in the administration of Office 365, and then we're going to touch on that today, but it could be anything that you need it to be within that cloud context. I'm now going to hand over to Guyan to talk about Refresh IT and also undertake a demonstration of their product.
Thank you. Hello, I'm Guillaume Lagache from Refresh IT Solution, and I'm the pre-sales lead for the company. And Refresh IT is an ISV specialized in the IT transformation, and we are a close partner of Bytes and Microsoft. First, to introduce our solution, RISA, which stands for Refresh Insights Server and Apps. We have developed RISA in partnership with Microsoft Global Practice and the Microsoft Product Group to fill the gaps and automate the first 3 steps of this methodology, which is the recommended DC modernization process from Microsoft. And from a high-level view, before switching to my screen and run a little demo of the solution, in the 4th step that you can see following the methodology, the goal in the discover step is to collect all the useful information coming from your servers using various implementation scenario, can be online or offline, and collect this information and put them inside what we call the dynamic repository. We will be always up to date during the modernization project, and we will use across the various steps of this methodology what we call a knowledge base, and in the discovery step, this knowledge base will be used to get all the components using detection rules for the component. In the assess step, the goal is to rationalize what we have collected, all the raw signatures into friendly name of an application / the version of the application to ease the reading into the different reports and into the software. Very early in the project, we will be able to provide some dashboard, what we call a server profiling reports, that I will show you in a few minutes. And with the help of an application designer, we will define finally the application model of each of your application to go to the next step, which is target. Again, in target, we will use the knowledge base, which contains all the eligibility rules and all the possible and factual targets and migration paths to the modern IT. And we will provide a useful report, which is an application analysis report, which will be a tool between Bytes and you and your application owner to validate first the application model and secondly the migration path following your strategy. And then in the migrate step, we will not manage the lift and shift, but will provide assistance for the batching and the scheduling of the migration of the component, and provide useful reports about the migration follow-up to quickly see where you are in your project. And now, Amy, I can switch to my screen if you can promote me as presenter. Okay, perfect.
Guillaume?
Yes, Nicolas?
Yes. While you're doing this, hi guys, it's Nick Pujadas from Refresh IT Solutions. I'm responsible for our international business. Just a couple of complementary pieces of information for you. So to summarize, the tool we have co-developed with Microsoft is really about helping you very quickly and very efficiently understand what you have in your data centers in terms of servers, workloads, where, and very quickly be able to deliver a fully fledged migration plan that you can rely on, both for your infrastructure and your workloads, so that you know exactly what you can move to the cloud and how and what's the sizing, etc., etc. Typically, what we have seen working with Microsoft and strategic partners like Bytes is that because of the automation that the tool brings and some of the functionalities that Guillaume has mentioned, we would typically reduce the time necessary to do all that discovery prior to the lift and shift of the migration by about 50%. So that's saving you guys 50% of your time and therefore 50% of consulting cost that any traditional SI would do if they didn't have our technology and the service from Bytes. So I think this is really the key reason why you should be interested to work with us and Bytes on that journey. It's first and foremost about saving you a lot of time and cost to be fully equipped to migrate to the right targets in Azure or potentially on-prem modern platforms from Microsoft. The last item I just wanted to mention before Guillaume starts the demo of our tool, and that has not been mentioned so far, but it's of course very interesting for you. We have embarked on a campaign with Microsoft and Bytes, which means that Microsoft will fund let's call it a POC, if you were interested in that technology, for up to 250 of your servers to run our tool at the infra layer. And we have a scope of work that we have put together with Bytes to deliver some really interesting insight at the end of that POC in terms of your servers profiling, an estimate of the cost, whether you want to have an IaaS or a PaaS strategy, etc., etc. So the sort of call to action I would like to suggest to you guys, if you're interested in what you have seen today and what we have talked to you about, would be to contact either your Microsoft sales representative or your Bytes sales representative, more likely, to discuss whether you could benefit from that offer, which will need to be qualified. But Microsoft and Bytes are putting some significant effort to help you progress your plans with modernizing your data center and transforming your data center. With that, I'm going to hand over back to Guillaume.
Thank you, Nicolas. Okay, this is RISA. This is the welcome page of RISA, and we'll get the view on all the servers in the scope of the analysis. It can be an import from existing Microsoft assessment and planning toolkit running on your subnet. You can quickly get the view of the main specification of servers with a single click. What are the specifications regarding the CPU, the memory, the disk size, etc. Which components are installed on this server. And the last tab is about the dependencies, and I will show you that we get a dependency view. Here I can see that I have 28 groups of dependencies, and when I enter into these groups, I can see all the groups of dependencies that RISA find for me. These dependencies are based on the web component, IIS and Apache, and we will see that for one of my servers in the scope of the analysis, I get 2 dependencies, and this time with this question mark, I know that this server is outside of the scope of the current analysis, and it's an interesting information to have to avoid to miss anything. And if I go back to the dependencies tab, I will see what are the inner links, okay, but most interesting, the outer links, which is the type of the remote link. It can be another website, another endpoint. It can be an SMTP relay. It can be a database. It can be a resource on a network share. We provide this kind of information and what is the name of the application that is called from this component. And we get, this is for the graphical interface, and we get a report about the server dependencies. I will show you what looks like this reports, the server dependencies reports. It's a PDF file, easy to use. As a reminder, how many subnets are in the scope of the analysis, how many groups of dependencies we have found, and how many web components we have found on all the servers. And in the detail, I will show you, we provide for each groups of dependencies what is the type of the dependencies, what is the remote servers linked to these main servers, and what is the service, the endpoint called, and for all the groups of dependencies we have. That's for the dependencies. Now I go back to the product, switch back to the main view, and I will show you some information about the knowledge base with a big knowledge base containing lots of components. As you can see, there is around 18,000 components inside the knowledge base. We get all the Microsoft and non-Microsoft components inside this knowledge base. And as you can see, some of the components are flagged as noise to skip them into the interface and into the various reports to ease the reading, because it's not a useful component to take care for the migration or modernization process. And then all these raw signatures that we may find on your source servers, if I go to the component gallery, RISA will rationalize all these raw signatures into friendly name of the application name / the version. This time we get 1,800 useful components, and I will show you that we can filter on each of the thematic of the workloads of the components. For instance, the databases servers. I get all the databases component, and if I focus, for instance, of the Microsoft SQL servers 2005 Service Pack 3, for each component, we have in the knowledge base the catalog of all the possible migration paths to modernize this component. It can be in Azure as a virtual machine with all the relevant sizing available into the Azure catalog. And it can be, if available, as a service, for instance, the Azure SQL service, and again with the relevant different sizing available. And of course, we get the on-premises targets also for each of the component with all the eligibility rules. Then I can show you the detail about the signatures. As I said, usually on your source servers, we can find this kind of raw signatures names, these raw patterns on the servers. The job of RISA is to rationalize this complex name into the friendly name of the application, what is really the component, Microsoft SQL Servers 2005 Service Pack 3. And we've done that for each of the components, and it will ease the reading of the reports generated by the product and within the interface of the solution. For your information, because we are on the SQL component, we have a dedicated module to finally analyze the SQL servers, the SQL databases. This is running inside the solution, and I will show you which kind of reports we can provide regarding the SQL servers. The first one is an Excel file. It's a a summary of all the servers running SQL Server. You will get the server name, the domain, the operating system, is the server virtual or not, the amount of memory and the usage of the memory. Interesting, you will get the amount of cores of the servers, and most interesting, the usage of the CPU. The goal is to rationalize, to consolidate the target to maybe 2 source SQL servers, migrate them into one target Azure SQL services regarding the usage of the CPU. You'll get the usage of the disk, mainly the IOPS, the SQL version, the amount of non-system databases, the size of the databases, and the enabled SQL service. This is for the first summary report, and the second one is a focus on one specific server using SQL. You will retrieve the server name, the domain, the operating system, if it is physical or virtual, the memory and the consumption, the CPU and the consumption, and the IUPS of the disk. This is a server running Microsoft SQL Server 2005. There is the following services enabled on this server. As a summary, how many databases are running on this server, how many cubes if the SQL Server analysis service was enabled, not this time, and how many reports, and how many subscribers on the reports. Then, regarding the databases, we will provide the detail for all the instances and for all the databases, how many tables, how many stored procedures, how many functions, the size of the database, the batch per second requests, and we use inside our code the Microsoft SQL Advisor to provide the eligibility status to migrate this database to each modern version of SQL Server. Then a focus on the report name, the description, the amount of subscribers, and the last time of the execution to identify if it is a frequently used report or not. And then we will provide the return code from the SQL Advisor from Microsoft with the exact error name. This is just a sample of the reports with not the relevant feedback, but to get the exact view of why my database is not able to be migrated on this target version of SQL Server. That was for the focus on SQL Server.
And just to jump in on that one, so as you guys can understand, with those couple of reports that Guillaume has showed you, for the ones of you who have a SQL estate in your data center, you're getting 2 things out of this. A clear guidance on how to consolidate it onto fewer SQL servers at the target to improve your performance and save costs. And the second report is really also helping you to understand all the insights so that you can fully build the cost necessary for the migration itself. And what Guillaume just showed you is the latest functionality we have built in our tool for specifically for SQL, which is what Nir from Microsoft is looking after.
Okay. And then before going into the application layer of the solution, very early in the project, we can generate what we call a dashboard. I will show you this dashboard. With a dashboard, there it is. Okay, this dashboard is an infrastructure analysis layer. In the first page, you will get the information about what is the scope of the servers you want to look at, 28 servers in this case. What is the distribution regarding the different workloads, LOB, databases, etc. information about the operating system distribution, and the distribution about the source architecture, physical or virtual. Then, workload per workload, starting with database, will provide a view of how many times each of the components are installed on your estate. This job is done with the rationalization feature of WISA. You get the view and the detail of each releases of each of the components found on the servers, then email in collaboration, etc. We do this kind of view for each workload. Then the server profiles overview, this time with the server names. What is the role of the server? What kind of workloads components are installed on each of the servers to get a good understanding of your estates. Then, most interesting, very early at this stage, we can provide to you the overall modernization strategy you may have if you want to migrate first to the infrastructure as a service strategy regarding all your servers, how many virtual machines into the Azure catalog you will need if you want to migrate to Azure, and it will ease the job to estimate the cost regarding the run of your estate. Then for the platform as a service strategy, if available for your components, we will provide, if available into the Azure catalog regarding the services, the same kind of information, how many services you will need, for instance, for the Azure Oracle VM, 13 in this case, then for the SQL services, for the Azure website, and again with the relevant sizing in relationship with the specification we have found on the source server where sits the web components, etc. for each of the available services into the Azure catalog. We provide the detail regarding the sizing of the target virtual machine into Azure for each of your servers. What is the relevant target in the A series and the D series in the Azure catalog, and the colors that you can see is to identify if currently, actually, the servers is overused or underused, to better match or maybe upgrade the recommended target to the higher one. For instance, this one, maybe it will be best to take A3 instead of the A2 because the servers is in high usage between 60 and 90% regarding memory and CPU to refine the migration strategy. And if you get physical servers, we provide regarding the on-premise strategy, what is the eligibility for your servers to host the newest operating system. And this time, all of the servers are not able to host the newer operating system regarding the manufacturer's specification. And after, for each of the workloads, again starting with databases, we will provide the detail of the modernization strategy, starting with on-premise for each of your database component regarding the current release of the component. Is he able to be hosted on this target operating system, or do you need to upgrade the component? And then the detail about the cloud strategy, starting again with the IaaS strategy. This time we identify the server names, how many target services you will need, with a reminder of the specification of the virtual machine into Azure. And the platform as a service strategy. And then for all the other workloads, email and collaboration, so forth and so on. Okay. Switch back to the application. You can see that there is some colored icon on the servers. It is a specific application hosted on the servers. You get the legend in the right-hand side here. I can focus on a specific application. For instance, I will take the Yellow Moon. It's fictive application for the demo. I can see that there is 3 servers involved in the scope of this application Yellow Moon. And now I can switch into the design mode of the application. With the application designer, Risa will automatically compute for me all the components he have found on the 3 servers in the scope of the Yellow Moon application. And the first job of the Bytes consultant will be to check if, for my application to run, I really need all of these components. And if not, I simply have to delete the component from this initial proposition of the application model and check all the other components. This is the first job to do. Once this first job is done, I will switch back to the info mode, and I will generate a very useful report, which is the application analysis reports. I will show you a sample of this report. The application analysis report, I will zoom in a little bit. Okay, this is an application report from an application called Proteus running on these 2 servers. An architecture source that is virtual. The reports will show it to you in the first page, the on-premise migration path and eligibility status for each of the components, and in the second page, the same thing for the cloud strategy into Azure as a virtual machine or into Azure services. The first thing to do with this reports between Bytes and your application owner is to check and validate the application model. You will retrieve all the components that you have left in the application designer. The goal is to check if there is not a useless or missing component inside this application model. And once you agreed between the application owner and the Bytes consultants, you simply have to check, to select in this table what is the relevant target following your strategy, your modernization strategy, crossed with the eligibility of each of the components. For instance, we can see that for the net backup 7.0 component, you can stay in the same release for 2008 and 2008 R2, but if you intend to migrate to 2012 R2, you need to migrate at least to the net backup 7.6, meaning you need to upgrade and test this component. And regarding Azure, this time we will provide for each of the components what is the relevant sizing of the target virtual machine into the Azure catalog. Sometimes it will be not supported, and we provide the reason why in the appendix of these reports. And if available, as a service, is there an existing service into the Azure catalog to host my component regarding the target? And following this workshop, you will go back to the interface of the solution, make your adjustment into the application designer, and now you can switch into the batching and scheduling of your servers. If I right-click on a server, I will get the batching and scheduling view. At the beginning, all the components will be in the discovered status. And then you can switch the component to the being analyzed status, implying that you have some arbitration more to do regarding the migration of this component. Or you can switch to planned. You will select the migration path you agreed regarding the application analysis workshop. You can even specify the target server name, and in relationship with the team involved in the project to migrate this kind of workload, you will select what is the schedule date of the migration of this component, and this information will be useful, and we will retrieve it in the two last reports about the batching and the migration progress overview. And you will do that for each of your servers and each of the component. I can provide you a view of a finished plan for one of the application. It will be the Dev Factory application. This is the demo effect. The loading is a little bit long this time. Don't know why. Just give me 1 second. And for information, the product is hosted on Microsoft Azure, and we're using a connector to map to collect all the information. Can be used online or offline. Don't know why. I will open a new window. Sorry for the demo effect. I hope my product team is not doing any modification on the production platform, because this is the production platform. Okay, I will just show you the two last reports that I speak. It is the batching report and the migration progress overview report. The batching reports will take into account all the migration paths we have selected. RISA will compute for you batches of servers to migrate together regarding the dependencies we have detected between the servers, and regarding the component of the application that the servers can shard together. You will retrieve as a summary what is the selected target you have set for the migration of the component on each of the servers, and you will get the view of the period of time you would need regarding the dates you have put in the previous screen, etc. And the last report is the migration progress report. Migration progress. You will retrieve in this overall report how many servers are in the non-component status, implying you have not yet specified that there is an application on these servers. It is the job left to do for you. How many servers are in the status discovered? You have specified that there is an application, but you have not yet defined any migration path for this component within the servers. How many are in progress? And as a reminder, the batch number and the start date and end date of the migration of each of the servers in progress. And how many are completed and fully migrated to the target. I think I'm okay with the demo part. If you want to hand over back on your side, Amy or.
Okay, thank you again. Yes. And Nick, so just a reminder to everybody, if you do have any questions, please do just type those in the chat window, and then we can come to those at the end. So just a couple of more slides before we complete today's session. Here we go. So the next question is really, hopefully on your mind is, well, how do we engage and embark on this journey with Refresh and Microsoft and Bytes? The first question I think that we need to think about is potentially what the scope of a project. If we're talking about the data center in particular, sort of a particular platform or database environment, then that's great. We could equally be talking about data disaster recovery. Or end-user computing in terms of Office 365. So, or we could be saying, well, what is in our data center, and then what are the options? So that's the first question. In particular with the refresh tool, we can do that discovery and assessment piece across the whole data center and then start refining the scope of a migration project. As I think mentioned by Nick in the previous session, there is an engagement, and the place that we start and we call assessment and planning is to undertake that discovery, assessment and envisioning piece of work using the refresh tool to then consider things like, what could be the target Azure platform, what could be the target SQL platform, and equally, if we are talking about desktop environments as well, what could the end user computing environment look like in Office 365 and profiling your user estate as well. So some of that will be done using alternative technologies and equally working with yourselves to understand exactly what the end user requirements are. The output of that from an initial stage one assessment and planning engagement would be a strategic and migration roadmap, and equally what the impact would be from both a licensing perspective and equally the consulting exercise required to move those workloads to that target platform, which could be Azure, equally could be on-premise to a more modern operating system platform. As mentioned, there are potentially some options there that Microsoft could support this activity. Obviously, that would need to be requested and validated, but it's worth at least exploring, I think, that opportunity with our customer base. The next activity in that modernization piece could be, and one thing we've not mentioned, I think today, is the movement of those host platforms applications to the target environment. But a critical piece that we could consider is where those platforms applications could be just retired. So it's a critical question we do need to ask. We don't just want to necessarily just lift and shift everything in the current environment to a target on-premise or cloud. It could be that a lot of server infrastructure applications are no longer being used. And it's interesting to say and to comment on the fact that that is the case when we do undertake these projects. There are legacy, whether that's the Citrix farm, legacy databases out there, and particularly in our larger customer estates, that are no longer being used and can be switched off, decommissioned. So this is opportunity for a significant part of that assessment and planning piece to be co-funded, but otherwise it is a circa 15 to 20 day engagement with ourselves to get that initial piece done for an estate of around 200 to 250 servers, as mentioned. So that's it, and thank you for your time this morning, everyone, and thank you for listening. I can't see any questions in my window, but I don't know if, Amy, if you've got some questions. I don't know if it shows on both sides.
Thanks,
questions would be.
Yeah, so we do have one question, actually. So this one's from Lee, and he said, RISA will only be as good as the data put into it. How much of this data gathering and input is automated versus manual? Who is responsible for gathering this data?
Okay, so this is Nick here. I'll try to answer that question, and Guillaume, please complement it as you see it fit, right? So as Guillaume explained, but it's a lot of information for you guys to absorb, I realize that today. The way RISA works is that it will rely indeed on a collection of the inventory data from your servers and also the performance data. And there's a couple of ways we can do that. The traditional way we're doing it is if you guys have deployed MAP, the free tool from Microsoft, or if you're okay to deploy MAP, we have developed a native connector between RISA and MAP so that we let MAP gather all the inventory and performance data across all your servers, and then that is injected into the knowledge database of RISA, and RISA focuses on the job that it does that we have demoed to you. So indeed it is as good as the data that MAP will collect, but it's usually good and comprehensive. We can also use our own agent if you wanted us to do that as an alternative to the MAP data collection. The slight advantage of using our agent is that unlike MAP, we can let it run for as long as we want to maybe capture slightly richer information, but it is comparable to MAP. And as Guillaume said, if none of the above could apply, if you had a management system like SCCM, Systrack, etc., as long as it is SQL based and on a business case basis, we could also develop a connector into that management system to collect the data. So you've got many tools to do the inventory. What Riza is really good at, as you have seen, is analyzing that data, helping you with your decisions to migrate, and very good at automating the target step. But indeed, it will rely on the data collection of some sort as per the scenarios that I have described. Guillaume, do you want to add anything to that?
No, it's perfect, Nick.
Thank you.
Thank you, Nick.
So,
any further questions from anybody?
At the moment, no. So yeah, if you do have any questions, just pop them in the questions box. It's just at the right-hand side of your screen.
Doesn't sound like there are any further questions. So once again, I'd like to thank all the presenters for their time today, as well as all of the attendees for your time. Just remind you, please do talk to your account manager, either at Microsoft or at Bytes, if you do need any further assistance. We are here to assist you on your cloud strategy and hopefully provide the technology and some consulting assistance with that journey. So once again, I'd just like to thank you for your time today. And the slide deck, or the recording of the slide deck, will be available to you following this presentation, and equally, I think, a handout as well. Okay, thank you all.
thanks, everyone.
Thank you.